You don't feel the pain at first. That's the funny thing about getting stabbed. Your brain is still buffering while your body is actively leaking. What you do feel is the warmth, a strange, spreading heat across your ribs or stomach or wherever someone just decided to rearrange your anatomy. You look down, and there it is. Blood. Not a polite drip. Not a dramatic movie trickle. A spill. A growing, blooming stain that wasn't there 10 seconds ago. Congratulations. You've been stabbed. And the world ended a long time ago, so nobody's coming to help. No ambulance, no paramedic, no operating room with clean metal instruments, and someone named Dr. Patel telling you to stay calm while morphine kisses you into oblivion. Nope. It's just you. You're shaking hands, and a hole in your body that someone generously donated. Your heart starts hammering, adrenaline dumping into your system like it's trying to scare the wound away. Your vision goes narrow, sound fades into a low hum, and your brain does that annoying thing where it tries to pretend everything is fine. Spoiler, it's not fine. You're bleeding, and bleeding is a limited time activity. You've got minutes before the world starts tilting sideways and the ground becomes your new best friend. But here's the thing. Panic is a luxury you can't afford. Panic is what people do right before they become a statistic. Right before they bleed out on a dirty floor while whispering, "This can't be happening," like that's going to magically close the wound. No, not you. You're not dying in a forgotten alley with your guts threatening to fall out. You're going to treat this. You're going to stop the bleeding. You're going to live long enough to regret every choice that led you to this exact moment. So breathe. Not the big dramatic, "I'm calming down" breath. Those will just make your head swim. Short, controlled, focused. Now look at the wound. Not long enough to freak out, just long enough to locate it. Chest, stomach, leg, arm. Each one is its own kind of nightmare, but all nightmares in the apocalypse follow the same rule. If you don't fix it, no one will. The pain starts to arrive now like a late guest who wants to make an entrance. Sharp, hot, spreading, good. Pain means you're conscious. Conscious means you can work. Unconscious means you're dead with extra steps. You need pressure. You need cloth. You need to stop the bleeding before you become a red puddle with aspirations. That's the mission. Stop the bleeding long enough to live the next 5 minutes. Survive the next 5 minutes long enough to see the next hour. And maybe, just maybe, see tomorrow. Because this isn't a heroic moment. There's no swelling music. No slow motion flashback montage. It's survival. Raw. Ugly. Necessary. And it starts now. You don't have time to negotiate with the pain or bargain with the universe. You're bleeding, and your body is pouring out its most valuable resource like it's running a clearance sale. Job 1. Stop the bleeding. Not eventually. Not once you collect yourself. Right now. Your hands are shaking. Your vision is stuttering like an old generator. And the world feels like it's sliding away from you in slow, spiraling circles. That's blood loss. That's your body politely informing you that you're moments away from becoming a cautionary tale. So move. Grab something, anything, that even resembles fabric. Shirt, jacket, scarf, curtain, a suspiciously stained rag. If it's soft, absorbent, and not currently on fire, congratulations, it's medical equipment now. Fold it, double it. Make a thick pad, not a sad little napkin. Now press it into the wound like you're trying to smother a screaming secret. Hard. Harder. No, harder than that, because this isn't gentle first aid. This is you fighting your own circulatory system in a dim hallway, trying to keep your insides inside. And here's where beginners screw up. Don't lift the cloth to check the wound. Not after 10 seconds, not after 30, not after the voice in your head starts saying, "Is it still bleeding?" Of course it's still bleeding. You were stabbed. Peaking is how you tear the fragile clot your body is desperately trying to build. And if you rip that clot off, congratulations. You just reset the timer on your own survival. If the cloth soaks through, and it will, do not remove it. Just stack another layer on top, and another, until you've built a sad little tower of desperation and cotton. Feel the warmth pulsing under your hands? That's blood trying to escape. Your job is to convince it to stay home. If the stab wound is on your arm or leg, elevate it above your heart. Gravity is free. It's also surprisingly effective at preventing you from becoming a human sprinkler. If the wound is on your torso, congratulations. You get the deluxe version of this nightmare. You can't elevate your chest unless you've learned levitation from a wandering apocalypse monk. So keep pressing, keep breathing, keep using the one thing you still have: stubbornness. The pain will come in waves. Let it. Pain means blood is still in you. Pain means consciousness. Pain means survival. And here's the biology, because understanding what's happening keeps the panic from eating you alive. Those platelets in your blood are trying to seal the wound. They're sticking together, stacking up, forming microscopic sandbags against the flood. But they need your help. Pressure gives them a fighting chance. No pressure, no clot. No clot, no you. So hold the line. Hold it until your arms shake. Hold it until the bleeding slows. Hold it because there's no one else in this broken world who's going to do it for you. Stopping the bleeding isn't the whole battle, but it's the only reason you'll live long enough to fight the next one. There's a special kind of dread that comes after being stabbed. The moment you realize you're not just bleeding. You might also be impaled. And nothing screams, your day just got worse, like looking down and seeing part of someone else's bad decisions sticking out of your body. So let's get one thing clear before you do something heroic and catastrophically stupid. Do not pull the knife out, not halfway, not just to look, not because movies told you it's a good idea. If the blade is still inside you, it's doing you one unexpected favor. It's plugging the hole it created. Removing it right now is basically opening the floodgates and inviting your blood to audition for the role of Niagara Falls. So freeze, breathe, don't yank anything. Your brain will try to convince you otherwise. Maybe if I pull it out, it'll hurt less. Incorrect. It will hurt more. Maybe the bleeding will slow down. It won't. Maybe it's not that deep. If you can see it, it's deep enough. If the blade is still in you, your job isn't removal. It's stabilization. Find cloth. Anything soft that won't crumble into the wound. Fold it and wedge it around both sides of the blade, like you're trying to brace a wobbly table leg. Your goal is to keep the knife exactly where it is, because even a few millimeters of movement can turn a bad wound into a red horror show. Wrap more cloth over the top, but not so tight you push the knife deeper. You're building a cushion, not hammering it in like an apocalypse tent stake. Once it's padded, secure it with a bandage, belt, scarf, anything that wraps and holds. The setup should look like you've dressed your wound in a tiny, sad pillow fort. Now, what if the knife isn't in you anymore? What if the attacker helpfully removed it before leaving? Bad news? You've now got an open stab wound with zero cork. Good news, you can move on to treating it directly. But the bleeding will be worse, so go back to pressure immediately. And let's talk physiology for a second, because understanding what's happening keeps your panic from eating you alive. When a knife enters the body, it cuts vessels cleanly. Pulling the knife out tears them wider, opens new paths for bleeding, and strips away the fragile clot your body is desperately building. Leaving it in buys you time. Removing it too soon buys you a funeral. This is why medics, the ones who used to exist, always stabilized impaled objects on scene. They didn't remove anything, not until a surgeon, anesthesia, and a bright, sterile room were involved. You have none of those things. You have a broken world, a dirty floor, questionable hygiene, and a stubborn refusal to die today. So if the knife is still inside you, accept the gift, stabilize it, protect it, let it be your accidental tourniquet, because you've got more steps ahead, and none of them matter if you bleed out trying to play action hero. Survive this moment first, then we deal with the rest. You've slowed the bleeding. You've stabilized the knife, or the absence of it. You're still alive, which is surprising, honestly. But now comes the part that separates survivors from future corpses. You have to clean the wound. And not in the lazy, rinse it under the tap and hope for the best kind of way you used back when the world had functioning hospitals. No, this is apocalypse cleaning, where your options range from barely sanitary to technically better than nothing. Let's start simple. You need water, not mud, not mystery liquid from a rusted barrel. Actual water. If you have bottled water, congratulations. You're living like royalty. If you don't, find tap water. Yes, it tastes like metal sadness and old pipes, but it's cleaner than whatever's festering inside your wound. If you can boil water, do it. Bring it to a rolling boil, then let it cool. Burning the wound with hot water isn't cleaning it. That's just adding a new injury to your collection. Now comes the fun part. Pour the water directly into the wound. Not a drizzle. Not a gentle sprinkle like you're blessing it in a spiritual ceremony. You need a stream, something strong enough to flush out dirt, fabric fibers, blood clots, and microscopic freeloaders trying to set up real estate inside your body. It's going to hurt. A lot. You might scream. You might swear. Good. Screaming means you're alive. If you have saline solution, use that instead. If you have hydrogen peroxide, you get one good bubble session. Just one. Peroxide damages tissue if you use it repeatedly, and you're not exactly overflowing with spare tissue. And now, the big myth. Do not pour alcohol into the wound. Movies lied to you. Alcohol doesn't sterilize like people think. It destroys healthy tissue and burns like someone lit a match inside your organs. Save the whiskey for your nerves, not your insides. If by some miracle you have antiseptic wipes, iodine, or chlorhexidine, use them around the wound, not deep inside. You're not trying to give the wound a spa day. You're trying to reduce infection, the slow, quiet killer that makes stab wounds look like minor inconveniences. Once the water runs clear, or clearish, let's be realistic. Pat the area dry with the cleanest cloth you can find. Not perfect. Just clean enough that you're not reintroducing whatever horrors you just flushed out. Look at the wound again. Not long enough to panic, just long enough to process the damage. Jagged? Deep? Wide? Does it look like someone carved a signature into you? That's fine. You're going to deal with all of that. Because cleaning the wound isn't the final step. It's just the opening act. You got the debris out. Now you have to stop the bleeding you can't see and prevent the wound from collapsing into a breeding ground for bacteria with ambition. This is where most people die. Slowly, painfully, and unnecessarily. But not you. You cleaned the wound like a medic with no supplies and no backup. Now you're ready for the next nightmare, packing the wound before it swallows you whole. You've cleaned the wound. You've rinsed out dirt, blood, and whatever microscopic hitchhikers were hoping to turn your insides into a new colony. But now you're staring at the problem no one wants to deal with. There's still a hole in you, a deep one, a cavity. A place where organs, blood, and sanity go to die. And here's the harsh truth about stab wounds in a dead world. Holes don't close themselves. Not out here, not now, not with your body running on adrenaline, fear, and the nutritional value of whatever canned food you ate this morning. So it's time to do something deeply unpleasant. You're going to pack the wound, not metaphorically, not spiritually, physically. With cloth, gauze, fabric, whatever you can find that isn't currently hosting its own bacteria theme park. Start with gauze if you have it. If you don't, Use clean cloth. If you don't have clean cloth, use the cleanest thing you can find and try not to think too hard about it. Now comes the part that makes everyone hesitate. Pushing the packing inside the wound. Yes, inside. You're not bandaging the outside. You're filling the inside, like you're stuffing the world's most horrifying, medically questionable turkey. Use your fingers or tweezers if you're fancy. Go slow but firm. Slide the gauze into the deepest part of the wound, layer by layer. You're trying to apply internal pressure to stop bleeding you can't see, and stabilize tissue that's desperately trying to keep you alive. Does it hurt? Of course it hurts. It's supposed to hurt. Pain means you're doing it right, and also that you're still conscious, which is a huge win in the apocalypse. The goal is to fill the cavity enough that the walls of the wound press against the packing. Not loose, not too tight. The perfect middle ground between "this hurts like hell" and "I can still feel blood sloshing." Once the main cavity is filled, place a larger pad of cloth over the top. This external dressing keeps everything contained and gives your sad attempt at internal architecture a little structural support. Now secure it. Medical tape? Perfect. Duct tape? Surprisingly effective. Rope? Please don't use rope. But if you have to, layer fabric under it unless you want to turn your wound into a cheese slicer situation. Stand or sit still for a moment. Let the pressure do its job. Feel the pain pulse, then slowly settle. If blood begins seeping through, add another layer. Don't remove anything. Removing the packing is like pulling out the foundation of a house while you're still living in it. Once it's stable, breathe. Not because you're safe. You're not. But because you've just survived something that kills most people before they even know what to do. You packed a stab wound with scraps and sheer stubborn will. In a dead world, that makes you the closest thing left to a field medic. Stopping the bleeding kept you alive. Stabilizing the knife kept you alive. Cleaning and packing the wound kept you alive. But now comes the threat that kills more survivors than raiders. Dehydration, starvation, and bad decisions combined. Infection. In a dead world, infection isn't an inconvenience. It's a silent executioner. It doesn't rush. It doesn't shout. It just shows up uninvited and starts turning your insides into a bacterial Airbnb. So here's the rule. Treat infection like it's trying to kill you, because it is. Let's start with the obvious. If you have antibiotics, use them. Amoxicillin, doxycycline, ciprofloxacin, anything broad spectrum that you miraculously scavenged before society collapsed. Check the bottle. Follow the dosage. Do not skip a day. Do not say, "I feel fine now," because feeling fine is what people say right before they collapse and die in a ditch. But let's be honest. Chances are you don't have antibiotics. Chances are you have whatever scraps of apocalyptic nonsense you managed to stuff in your pack before the world went on permanent vacation. So we move to the next tier of survival medicine. Primitive, desperate, but surprisingly effective treatments. Number 1, honey, real honey. Not processed syrup. Not honey-flavored golden squeeze topping. Actual honey, thick, raw, sticky, packed with natural antimicrobial properties. Smear a layer onto a clean piece of cloth, then place it over your wound before adding your outer dressing. Will it feel weird? Yes. Will you smell faintly like a dessert? Also yes. But bacteria hate honey, and in the apocalypse, that makes it liquid gold. Number 2, garlic. Crush it. Mash it. Mix it with a little oil if you're feeling fancy. Apply it to the dressing, not directly into the wound, unless you enjoy setting your nerves on fire. You'll smell like a poorly managed kitchen, but garlic has been saving people from infections since before sanitation was invented. Now let's talk symptoms. The things that mean bacteria are already winning. Redness spreading around the wound. heat radiating like your skin is charging a battery, swelling that looks like your body is trying to inflate itself, pus fever chills, a smell that can only be described as something died twice. If any of these show up, congratulations. The infection wants a rematch. Keep the wound clean, change dressings regularly, reapply honey or garlic, drink water, rest when you can. And monitor yourself like your life depends on it, because it absolutely does. Infections don't kill quickly. They kill slowly, miserably, quietly. They're patient. They wait. They take their time turning a survivable wound into a death sentence. But not for you. Not today. You fought the bleeding. You survived the stabbing. You battled the pain. And now you're taking on microscopic enemies with pantry items. That's survival. That's apocalypse medicine. And if you're still breathing, you're winning.